Chase the wind, be free. But you keep asking where I've been and who I see. You say it's love, but it feels like a chain. I'm a wildflower, not a thing to tame. You ask where I've been, who I've seen, like I'm yours to own, not just your queen. I need the wind, I need the sky, but you only say goodbye when.
Get pain relief fast with Frances Rub.
When the days get tough, rub it. Having back pains, rub it. The dog not well, rub it. COVID on you, rub it. If you have 4AD, rub it. For proper circulation, rub it. Stroke have you on a side, rub it. For all problems in life, rub it with Frances Rub. Or call 713-4162 or 489-3421. Nothing beats a good old Frances Rub. Located in the Vendors Arcade, booth 27B.
And now in VA4 on Girodi Street next to the post office.
So you know, oh, it's my turn to go next. No, not my turn to go next, but it's like, oh, your turn, your turn, your turn. I know that voice anywhere. I know that voice anywhere. Good night, 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 good night to you. We don't have anybody on yet. Oh, we have 2 people on already.
Yeah, 2 people.
So we're going to jump right in because apparently now our hour has been really restricted. No apologies because that means, you know, we've had a little tendency to kind of like go a little over, but now we're just going to keep our audience wanting more so that they could keep coming back. So welcome, 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 guys. Welcome back to HushTalk. The last conversation we had was deeply, deeply personal. Last Wednesday, we met with Christine and she took us inside the experience of a mother with autism. And we went from, she spoke to us about her journey, where she went from recognizing that something was different through diagnosis, through fear, through uncertainty, through school, through advocating for her child, and eventually through watching her child graduate all the way from high school. So tonight we're taking the next step. I want you to just imagine a child. You imagine that same child, same personality, same strengths, same communication needs, same sensory needs, same diagnosis. But now I want you to imagine that child now growing up in 3 different places. That child growing up in the United States, that child growing up in the UK, and that child growing up in St. Lucia. Would that child's life be the same across all 3 environments? So I want us to think about, would the diagnosis be the same? Would the family receive the same kind of support? Would the school respond to the child in the same way? Would the community show the same kind of understanding? The teachers, would they have the same training? Would the families even feel more comfortable in one environment or another, saying the word autism? But I have a bigger question tonight. After we think of all of those questions, if that child, that same child we're talking about in the US, in the UK, or in St. Lucia, that child hasn't changed, why might that child's opportunities change simply because the geography has? So that's where we're going tonight. So before we even go deep into it, I want our audience to meet the table. Meet the table. Let's see who is at the table. So I'm going to go first, and then I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to introduce yourselves. So guys, I'm coming to the table because After years of teaching students with special needs, I started teaching about 30 something years ago, lower 30s, maybe like 31, 32 years ago. And when I started teaching, my experience wasn't so much in special needs. I taught for about 10 years in St. Lucia. It was just general teaching. But from the time I migrated to the US, I've been teaching special needs. I've been writing IEPs. I've been working as a support facilitator, supporting teachers of students with exceptionalities. And more recently, I've been working extensively in instructional design. I cannot wait to see where this will take me, but I'm looking at accessibility, inclusion, cultural relevance, and I'm looking at them not just as an afterthought, but thinking about if we design them, design school, design education, design learning with all of those things in mind from the beginning, how we can change the trajectory of education. So that's where I'm coming from. And I'm going to put a mic down so my co-hosts can introduce themselves.
Well, Vilna, you should go next because maybe you have more, that area, that expertise.
I don't have the expertise. I just own a preschool and we do take children with autism. And we find that now we have a lot more, and we have parents that are very grateful because one of the first questions they ask if their child has been diagnosed with autism is, do you take a child that is on the spectrum? And when a parent first asked that question, I did not realize that there were many preschools that did not accept them. At the time, I did not know much about it. And I see both sides of the coin. I understand, because if you do not have the teachers that are trained or ready to deal with them, I guess it can be a challenge. So in what we decided to do was to try it out, take them on. And I have one particular teacher that specifically works with them. She's doing a really, really good job. Everybody joins and helps, but that one teacher really, really works with them. And a lot of the parents are thankful and grateful to her and to the school for taking them. So right now we have a few of them at the school.
Okay. Well, for me, I was an educator. I'm still considered an educator in my line of work and a trainer. And of course, I have, in the classroom setting experience or recognize or work with students with autism or with disabilities, but we shouldn't say disabilities, differently able, especially with autism. Or should I say, Yolanda corrected me, autists. Is it, they're not autistic.
They're not autistic.
Now there's a whole debate on that. That's for another show. Students with autism. Also, I am part of a board of directors for an early childhood education center in the Castries Basin. And over the past few years, we have recognized a lot of students, especially, and that's early childhood. So from the ages, from toddler, we know. And it was a challenge to diagnose these students. It was very hard in St. Lucia. In the past, the children were just seen as, troublesome students, etc. And when we look at the preschoolers, what we noticed is that there was the need for a special, for one assessment of these students. And so I got involved with the doctor to assess the students. And then I got involved in training the teachers so that they can work with these students. It has been a challenge. The stigma attached, you had a lot of parents saying, hey, once we made it public that we had students with autism at the preschool, a lot of parents took their students out. They did not want their child exposed to that. And so I was involved in a lot of training and sensitization to get parents to understand, this is what it is and they should be accepted and be included. So this is my area, just a little, not as much of an expert as Yolanda, but just getting involved with, especially in the early childhood setting, students with autism.
Thank you, Vila. Thank you, T. My audience, I'm very sure you will agree with me because this girl just said, I don't have that much experience. And she gave us so much experience, she was able to write a book. I don't know why she's trying to play down her influence, because I remember even when my own son was like, Ma, can you ask Tamara to tutor me? And imagine Doobie doesn't even have an IEP and he was never placed in special education classes, but he was a person who was always paying attention to, where his struggles lie. And he said, I need somebody who is strong in the science areas to help to tutor me. So she has had extensive experience tutoring people all the way from Thailand and from those countries. Saudi Arabia, can't pronounce the name. So don't play on your expertise. But anyway, so I'm glad that you see that you have a table of 3 experienced individuals who are passionate about education, who have experience with education, and who kind of like have some kind of validated authority to speak on the topic. But tonight, I want to bring somebody else to the table. Tonight, we have our special guest, and you know what? I don't want to talk about him before I put him to the stage. Let me add him to the stage. So we have our special guest. I wish I could see your face a little clearer. I think there is a light. And I know you're kind of working in the capacity of a guardian angel, so you have your halo on your head. But we do want to see the face. So, all right. Okay. That looks better. Yeah, it's better. It's better. So hi. Hold on, hold your horse, please. Hold your horse, please. Don't take my spotlight away from me, because HushTalkers tonight, I have the privilege and the honor to present our guest speaker to you. So as I said, this is Delian Jamari. I wish I could go way back with our connection, but I'm going to stick with something that we went to secondary school and we taught together our years at Miku Primary School in 1993. Oh, wow. So at a risk of showing our age. But we're going to talk to Delian tonight because his career is going to give us another fascinating perspective. So just some background on Delian. Delian has served in the UK as a vice principal and a deputy head with responsibility for inclusion and special education needs. He has also been a director of inclusion. He has served as a SENCO, and SENCO is a special education needs coordinator who are working with individualized plans, classroom observations, referrals, assessments, annual reviews, and education, health, and care plans. He later worked as a school improvement consultant, helping schools evaluate special needs provisions, compliance, assessment systems, programs, and inclusive practices. Today, he works for an education authority in East London as an autism advisory specialist, and he supports schools, he supports teachers, children, and families. He also has a background in psychology, so much. He has a background in psychology, and he has also informed research interest in neurodiversity, learning, and the troubling pathways through which unmet needs and systematic responses can sometimes contribute to young people becoming criminalized. Now, I know I have said a lot, but as we speak to Delian, all of those big names and big terms you hear, we're going to unravel all of the we're going to unravel, and we're going to get a deeper understanding of what all of those hats entails, what he does, what the purpose of them are. So guys, welcome to HushTalk, Delian. And Delian, welcome to HushTalk.
Good evening, everyone. How are we doing? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
It's lovely to be here tonight. Thanks for inviting.
Oh, wait, we can't hear you now. What happened?
I said I feel quite privileged to be part of the conversation this evening. Thanks for the invitation. And I look forward to the discussion around the table this evening.
Yes. Oh, welcome. That accent sounds so refreshing. That accent is so refreshing.
It will always be refreshing for you too, because since you went to London and you come back and you think you're British, it will always be refreshing for you.
Isn't it?
I like it. Okay, so Delian, we're not starting with policy yet. I want to start with you. So I have a very first question that I want you to kind of like deliberate on for a few minutes. After everything you've seen, with all of those roles you've played, all of those hats you've worn, all of those experiences you've gained, with everything you've seen, what do you think the world still fundamentally misunderstands about autism?
I think the main thing, the main misconception about autism is that people fail to realize that it presents in different forms. The presentations are different. and then it also that it's along a spectrum as well. A misunderstanding that an autistic child is unable to talk, is unable to learn, is unable to do things. So that's misconceptions. There's lots of misconceptions associated with this diagnosis, and also there's also a failure on the world to have equal expectation for those individuals. I think what we haven't been exposed to a lot is the number of successful people, very successful people, who have who have been diagnosed with autism and who are living fully functional lives, as well as people who have such a diagnosis but may require help, even if like basic things like speech or daily living. So it's about understanding the spectrum and how vast it is, and a misunderstanding of the presentation, how it could differ from individuals, from context, from culture as well.
So I hear you saying that geography doesn't determine, oh, you only get autism because of where you live. Like people who are live in this area. Okay, good. I like that. I like that very much. There was something I was going to ask when you were talking, you said, I just wanted you to elaborate. You said something about it exists on a spectrum. We're all education people, so I think we kind of know what the term spectrum is, but can you just take like a few seconds just for our listeners to understand what we mean by existing on a spectrum?
I think if you envision the spectrum, how I explain spectrum is, I say it as a race. Imagine a race is a line, and you have the fastest run in the front and the slowest run at the end. So everybody's at different points in that race. So autism, in terms of individual development, people are on a different pathways, or they are at different points of that pathway in their development, whether it's emotional development, whether it's social development, whether it's cognitive development. So it's people differ based in spite of their diagnosis. For example, you may have someone with autism, diagnosis of autism, who is extremely academically able, what we would call the old Asperger's syndrome diagnosis from before. Whereas you'd have someone who has such a diagnosis, who has significant global delay, which means that they're not cognitively comparable to the people of the chronological age. So I might be 10 years old, but function at a 5-year-old cognitive age. When I say cognitive, I mean the mental age. So I may be a 10-year-old child, but I'm behaving like a child in nursery. I may still not have my speech develop. I may be still babbling, or I may be using gestures to communicate.
So you're telling us that the differences are so vast. You know how somebody says, once you've met an Indian, you've met all Indians. So what you're trying to say, if you've taught one child with autism, you've only taught one child with autism.
Yes.
You cannot generalize and say, oh, well, this child who has autism presents like this, so this one is going to be similar. You may get a totally different individual.
And even when they present similar traits, those similar traits there is still some disparity between the presentation. In the UK, we use something called, when we assess, something called a platform called B squared. So it looks at the minute steps. So a child might be within a particular the assessment framework, a particular level of assessment framework, but maybe further along that line, they may have gained certain skills that the others haven't. For example, like learning to read. You may learn all your alphabets, but I might know maybe just the first 5, or I might be able to sound just the first 5. But we'll be in the same nursery in terms of like, we'll be categorized as maybe at our pre-impression is probably the wrong word to use. Preschool age, preschool ability. So it just varies how the individual development occurs, and that a huge part of that depends on the support that individual, or that individual, I say individual because adults as well, or child gets from either different services like speech and language, like occupational therapy, like just educators as well, because we have a big role to play how we educate children with an autism diagnosis.
Okay. I think Vilna's question for you, you always like answer that, you know.
Yes,
Am
I was
I?
about to say.
Well, I'm just saying, to me, that sounds
Okay, so
just like a question Vilna was saying to us.
maybe I can throw a different one at you.
Yes.
How dangerous it is when professionals interpret behavior without considering both the neurodiversity and culture.
Yeah, it is very dangerous, actually.
Stop. You know, I'm the one who's going to jump in because I just heard Vilna throw out one big word there. If I didn't go to college and study all of those things, I would have no idea what neurodiversity is about. So if you can please just let the audience know what neurodiversity is about before you jump in and start giving us your stylized words. Thank you.
Okay, neurodiversity talks about how individuals are wired neurologically. And people with autism, with ADHD, with dyslexia, they're wired slightly differently. They see the world from different lenses. We may see the world as not as we do. So there is that difference in how they interpret the world, how they communicate, and how they sort of interact with the world around them. So to be diverse means different, and neuro, we talk about how the neurology, how they wired. So this is why sometimes you might find a child with an autism diagnosis may hate to communicate because there is a lack of language, but that's how he knows how to communicate. Or they may use sounds. So I'm going back to Vilna's question. I think you asked how dangerous. Could you repeat? Sorry.
How dangerous is it when professionals interpret behavior without considering both neurodiversity and culture?
It puts the I'm going to take it back to the learner, the young person at a disadvantage, because culture is very, very important. Whether diagnosis or no diagnosis, how we behave determines as how we socialize, what's tolerated, what's been reinforced. You know, that if we go back to behavioral psychology, I've been in teachers college when we were at the same time. How we how we socialize. So, for example, in St. Lucia, we might chastise our kids physically.
Wait. Excuse me, you're going too far. Excuse me, you're going too far. You know, we have a very beautiful activity to do about putting a hypothetical child in St. Lucia in
you're gonna come in up.
in the US. Yes, and we're going to talk about that. So
I'll go back to I'll go back if you said.
I love where you're going. So what I'm going to do, since you are all ready to go there, I'm going to pause because, guys, you always know that our audience, we love our audience. And I see they're already here. I see they're already interacting. And I've already even seen some comments. So I think we'll just take a quick minute just to recognize our audience. T, that's your job. You can put some comments on the screen so that we can see the comments. And then we're going to go to our first commercial break. And then when we come back, we're going to hear what you have to say about that. Go ahead, T.
Well, our all faithful Joella, our faithful is here. Now, look, I'm speaking British accent, Yolanda. Anyway.
That's what does.
So she said, good evening. I've missed so much. Last 2 weeks was hectic. Was getting my daughter ready for school. And work happy. So she's saying some long hours, but here she is today. Leona is also here, showing some love. She says, I'm here, but this is my study time, so I'll be in and out. Sorry. Well, good studying. Good. We have, is that Viana? Who's there? Somebody said, Boswe, I can't see now. What happened to my screen? Vilna?
Sorry.
Yeah, that was V.
Yeah, that was Vienna.
And she also said that Diana will leave some credentials for us to share among us because you have so much credentials. That's my boy.
So Daniel says the outcome for a child.
Hold on. Welcome. Daniel is in the house. Sorry, Auntie. I always like to shout over because when I see men in the house, I love it. So welcome, Daniel.
Yeah, Daniel is right on target where we're going right now. He says the outcome for a child with autism will not be the same across countries. The core condition doesn't change, but the quality of support, early intervention, education, healthcare access, and social inclusion vary widely, and those differences will strongly influence the long-term outcome. So this is where we're heading. Thanks for that, Danielle. We have Cheryl Bryce saying good afternoon, my sister Yolanda and everyone else.
Good afternoon, sis. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Cuz. Good afternoon, Adela. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody who is on. Did you miss out anybody, T, in terms of the names?
No, so we have Adela. No, that's who has commented so far. But I'm sure we have a lot more. People, feel free to like, share, drop a comment, show some love. We only have 4 hearts. Let's get some more hearts. But we do have a lot of viewers on, so the comments as they come, we will start reading them. So
okay, all right, great. So we're going to take the commercial break. But when we come back, we heard a lot of terms: IEP, EHCP, SENCO, this, that, neurodiversity, all the. So when we come back, we're going to kind of like unpack them for you a little bit, and then we're going to take you somewhere. So bear with us, and we will be right back.
Love how we party, love how we fet, pour out the bounty, everything's set, celebrate good friends and more, take the sea, tout moon, farewell. Love how the twin peaks rise to the top, bounty, treasure, right non-stop. We love the spirit and we all have fun, love that loose and rum.
Perfectly blended, smooth, the rum of the people. Experience the 6 flavors of bounty rum, the spirit of St. Lucia.
Get pain relief fast with Frances Rub.
When the days get tough, rub it. Having back pains, rub it. The dog not well, rub it. COVID on you, rub it. If you have 4AD, rub it. For proper circulation, rub it. Stroke have you on a side, rub it. For all problems in life, rub it with Frances Rub. Or call 713-4162 or 489-3421. Nothing beats a good old Frances Rub. Located in the Vendors Arcade, booth 27B.
And now in VA4 on Girodi Street next to the post office.
Okay. Welcome back. Let us unpack some of the terms before we jump into the scenario. What is an IEP?
An IEP is an individual education plan. So if a child is not accessing the curriculum, or they have trouble with difficulties accessing the curriculum that's expected of their chronological age, we might put something in place, support in place for them, where it's somebody supporting the learning, or the teacher scaffolding the learning, or an intervention happens outside the classroom. Now it becomes an IEP if the teacher's differentiation is unable to meet that child's needs. So what we do is to monitor that those things actually happen. We set targets for the child, short-term targets for the child to meet, which is like normally every 6 weeks when they're reviewed, or we call it a half term. So we break down what the child needs to do to work towards the age expected, or the child's potential, we would call it, because I might be in what you call a grade 3, but operating at 2 grades prior. So how do I get from grade 1 to grade 3? So what is grade 1 have I not learned? So the IEP would outline what steps those things the child needs to learn, and how it's going to be implemented, who is going to implement it, when it's going to be assessed, what success is going to look like. But it's not just for learning. It's also to improve behavior, to improve understanding, to improve social skills. So it's across the child's ability. So it could be academic, it could be emotional, it could be social. It could be just about making friends. How would that look like? So you may have structured play to support the child with that. What would success look like? Maybe the child is having maybe 5 to 10 minutes of successful structured play with peers. But it is what we use SMART targets. So targets that are measurable. You could measure those targets. You could and then you can put them in context so both the child can understand it, the parents can understand it, the adults looking at the child can understand it, and whoever is accountable will have to attend the review with families, with the class teacher or the practitioner, maybe other professionals within within the child's sort of what's the word I want to use? Provision. But it's just an individual health care. I think you got something similar in the US, what you use. But yours happens a lot later.
No, actually it doesn't. I am listening to you, and the systems you're describing are similar to what we do in the United States. Well, let me not say the United States, in New York and now in Florida, because my experience extends to those two states. I have not been in the education system in other states for me to speak for them, but I would assume that it's similar in the States, because education is like a federal thing. And schools have to comply based on federal provision. So I would expect that they're similar. But an IEP can be developed for a child as early as 3 years old. Once that child enters school, all the way to high school, middle school, and even in college, an IEP has to be honored. So as you said, it is an individualized education plan where from the minute you see that based on what this child is exhibiting, again, whether it's academic, social, psychosocial, behavioral, or it can even be health issues. Like, for example, if a child has sickle cell anemia, or a child has had problems, and that health condition is preventing the child from being able to maintain focus like his peers, or it's preventing the child from participating in physical activities. You develop this plan and say, okay, well, this is what's strenuous for the child. So these are the provisions we're going to make. We're going to set goals. We're going to measure them. The only thing that you said that was really different from the way we do it, it doesn't, we don't do it every 6 months. We develop an IEP and it lasts a year. And we have to review at the end of the year. However, if during the course of that IEP, we realize that some things are not working, because of course you're going to be monitoring it for progress. And if you realize the child is not making progress, then you have to come back and reconvene, review the IEP and say, okay, well, obviously something in there not attainable. We have to make sure we revise it and make it so that the child can feel successful within the parameters that we're setting. So it's like very, very similar to what you're saying. The only thing in my experience, I will see a child has an IEP and some teachers might look at it and be like, okay, you have to be like really, really conscientious and experienced for you to be able to look at an IEP and put it into full effect and really give that child an education that a child deserves. A child could be very well, performing very well academically, but because the child doesn't know how to interpret social cues, or the child may have ADHD, or the child may have be on the spectrum, the child will probably not behave within the expectations for the class, and that can cause that child to get an IEP. I am a little curious as to how much of that is done in St. Lucia. I don't know if it's St. Lucia.
These are my thoughts, because you all are speaking. So we have the UK and we have the US. And I mean, I'm not a special ed teacher. I know it's something, back in the day, we didn't really have it. It's something new. There's a lot happening. But I wish there was someone in special ed, because in the classroom as a science teacher, no special, I mean, there must have been over the hundreds of students that I have taught. There must have been a student who has been diagnosed, but nobody has ever come to me and say, hey, I have this IEP. I only learned of that word through you, Yolanda, when you say, Tamati, I have to do my, I'm like, what is that? What is she speaking about? I've never heard that word in the school in St. Lucia. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure if in the primary school level it's done, because there are a lot of special educators in the primary school level, but really, anyone in the audience, anyone who works with special education teachers in St. Lucia.
So when you were working in the primary school level, Dalian, there was never anything like IEP. As a matter of fact, you'd be like, oh, this person is slow. This child is slow.
This slow. Yeah, go to the library.
Yes, exactly. We didn't have that.
But what we did as teachers in the Caribbean was that we used to make sure that we scaffold our learning for our children. So we'd buy simpler books. We would invest. I remember when I taught at Maker Primary School, we would invest in our children and we would give them work that's a little bit easier than the rest of the class, rather than expect them to complete. But that was the good teachers that used to do that. Not all of them.
And hold on, Delian. I like that you say that, because I did that too. I consider myself a good teacher. But look, Yolanda Bryce Peter, looking back on Yolanda Bryce teaching all these years ago, I was a terrible teacher. Because I'm telling you, based on what I know now, based on what I know now, if I knew that back then, I would do everything differently. I would really earn my title teacher. Because let me tell you something. And let me just debunk this right now, because it's something that I'm very passionate about. You know, a lot of times we think if you have an IEP or if you have some kind of developmental disability, we give you the work have to be easier or we give you baby stuff. No, I believe in rigor. And I believe every child can handle work that is rigorous if it is individualized for them. So you look at what is being done. I realize that you're going to experience struggle X, Y, Z place. I am going to put some structures in place. So that is how you're going to make sure you accomplish it. So maybe everybody cannot go and investigate and say, oh, what does the judiciary branch of government in a country means? You cannot read, you cannot write, you cannot spell. But I'm very sure if I tell you, okay, you have difficulty reading and you have difficulty spelling, take a camera or search videos on the web, compile these videos, put it together, show us what the government do, draw pictures, take pictures, do a presentation. I believe in beauty. And now I'm getting very, very passionate here. So let me
I want to pick your brain. Any further. The three of you are here, and I want to pick your brain and the audience as well. I was having a discussion a few weeks ago with some educators. There were some that were retired and some relatively new ones. So the group kind of had two major arguments. All the educators in the 60s and 70s were like, listen, back in the day, this autism thing never existed. Okay? Children, why is it that they gave some statistics, in every 10 if you have 10 children, 1 in 10 is diagnosed with something? Is it that we as educators are now trying to label students with challenges because we cannot reach them? So we say, okay, this child is difficult, this child is on the spectrum. And so, because there was this, why do you think that this autism, why is it that what I'm trying to say,
I can answer that.
You may want to say,
I am ready.
Is it something in the food? Is it something that
No.
Why
Diane, take it away while I calm down. Take it away while I calm down.
Okay, so I don't think that we didn't have it. I think we played a blind eye to it. Okay. And we used different terms to articulate what it was.
Right.
Some words I think are politically incorrect. I wouldn't use on this platform, which were unpleasant because lots of kids got scarred and intimidated in school for those words. What has allowed us to be able to, because to get an autism diagnosis, it takes a lot of rigid assessment, very rigid assessment. And it's only done by a clinical psychologist or psychiatrist. A very, very small group of people in the UK at least who could diagnose autism. And I mean, you could research on it. It gives you the breakdown of what is assessed, how it's assessed, and how those things are triangulated to be able to come to the decision to give the child such a diagnosis. It's not taken very lightly. However, with your point, I think there is a greater understanding of the presentation of autism. And what I find in my experience as a special educationist coordinator, parents can sometimes indoctrinate the child in presenting in particular ways. But that does not fool the professionals, because they don't only look at the parents and the child. They look at the school. They come on the observation in school. They have the child in context. They take the SENCO's teachers sort of input. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. So I don't think we overdiagnose it. I think we're just becoming more aware of different presentation because of the amount of research that's been done. I mean, a good guy to look up is called I think it's called Simon Bowen. He's a Cambridge lecturer. I'll get the name for you. It's Bowen as his last name. He's a sir now. He's been knighted by he's the leading practitioner, the leading researcher on autism. And his work, it sort of puts a lot in perspective. It breaks it down quite nicely for us. Because it's time that we stop. We culturally, we've been socialized to be intolerant of what's different. And that's the ignorance that we as educators have a responsibility to eradicate. It hasn't We are not there yet. We're on that journey. So and yeah, I'm going to stop there, Yolanda. You go. You take it.
You know, I want to go to Vilna because I want to ask Vilna about the experience with the daycare center that she's running. I know they're doing some things with autism, but Vilna, before I go to you, I don't want to ignore Tamara's question. And Tamara, you said something. I don't know what's going on. Tamara, you said
that was
something.
me.
You said something about maybe like so many children are being diagnosed now.
Right. So they were saying that so many kids, the discussion, they were saying so many kids, yes, right.
So number one, you are absolutely right. You're right about that because people are what we eat now, it's affecting our nose, it's affecting our brain, it's affecting the pathways, it's affecting the synapses, it's affecting everything. Kids have a way of eating, what's the name of that thing I can't stand? Takis. Oh my goodness. We need to stop having our children eat Takis because I have not done any experiments on it, but I'm very sure Takis is contributing to the detriment of black brains. All the kids are doing is eating Takis. There's nothing good in that. However, regardless of, let's suppose we were eating as healthy as we can. I believe that the education should be organized in such a way that everybody should have an IEP. Because I don't care if you have a developmental disability, a specific learning disorder, if you have autism, if you have nothing. Everybody learns differently. Everybody has learning preferences. Everybody have things that they're amazing at, and everybody have struggles. So if we as educators and if the education system in whatever country it is situated decides, I am going to make sure that everybody gets an education that is fair, that is equitable, that is inclusive, that is accessible, then we don't have to worry about anybody for disability not being productive. And I will give you a quick example if I go to Vilna. You see now in the US, they build all those big houses. They build buildings, they build, let's say, a big rented apartment or a condo. Do you see they just say, oh, let me just put 100 units in that building and people just come and buy these units? They do that. But what they do, there is a law that ensures and it supervises that every building has at least 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, depending on the size, elevators. So if you cannot climb those steps, you can take the elevator, whether you have bad knee or not. They're going to be a ramp, even if they don't know if anybody is going to have a wheelchair. But if you just put it with steps and elevators, those who want the ramps, they cannot come up. And all of a sudden now, I'm like, okay, what do I do now? And then you see, oh, well, this person has a disability. Now we have to figure out a way for her to get in, for him or her to get in. If it was initially built in a way where everybody, regardless of the disability, can go through, then all of that would have been eliminated. So the same thing can be done in the education system. You have a curriculum, you have an instructional design plan, you present it, and as you present it, you ask yourself, who are those people who are going to be served by that plan? And all of those people, regardless of their disabilities, their status, their classification, are going to produce this. However, this is standing here, and there is this road going through it, there is this road going through it, there is this road going through it, there is this road. They're like 100 roads, all converging to the same point with different ways of getting there. And nobody has to be singled out, oh, well, I have an IEP, or I am this and I that, and I cannot do it. If we start designing our systems like that, we will eradicate all of those problems we have in our education system. And I'm going to rest there because I really want to hear what supports are in place in Vilna, in your experience, as you're running an institution with very young minds of children who have autism.
When you speak of support, I'm guessing you're asking what supports are in place from the government officials or the ministries. Nothing. I have tried. I did try. I got about maybe 25%. I was asked to prepare a plan, a budget, the whole 9 yards, which I did. And I know it was presented because somebody had me prepare and they were going on my behalf. and I was told there was a budget in place for that, and I would get something, but it fell through. Everything that is being done at Bright Men's Academy at that preschool, we either get help from parents. We have one particular parent who, if her child has outgrown something she felt was very useful, she will give it to us and she will say, hey, it calmed my child. So she will either tell us, I have two, you can have one, or she will tell me and then I will buy it. We don't get, everything comes from, let's just say from me, because I own the school. Everything comes from, so whatever we have in the school, whatever resources we have, whatever we do comes from our own research and what we are trying to do to help. Right now, what I am trying to do is to get a little more into it and to actually have like a sensory room. So right now, that's what we're trying to do. And we actually have two parents. One parent is trying to get sponsorship from the wider community, and we have another parent who's actually traveling and is trying to get stuff from overseas while she's there to help us build that sensory room. But everything we do comes from our pocket. We are trying to help and trying, but I have gotten no help. I'm not sure if I'm not going through the right channels.
No, I just want to ask a question. We had a similar discussion. Two things I find with St. Lucia before we move to the geography of things. One, a lot of parents who have children who have this diagnosis, I mean, we do not have the resources, and the harsh reality is that, I mean, this is new to St. Lucia. We're way behind. We don't have resources. We don't have enough specialists. We don't have all the sensory room, all the resources. We don't have it. What I find is a lot of parents who receive the student, they say, hey, your child has autism. One, they don't accept it. And two, if they do accept it because of stigma, so the government has, so there's special centers for these children or certain preschools or centers where they do have sensory rooms, they do have specialists there. It's limited. But because of the stigma, so I will not take my child and put my child at Lady Gordon. I will not take my child and put my child at the one in Denry because I want to put my child at Bright, what's the name of the a private preschool. Right. The second thing is, a lot of these preschools and primary schools, etc., they are aware that they do not have the resources and they're trying. But for me, it is doing a disadvantage to the child because I remember at that preschool that I was, we told them, and I know there's another preschool that is very, very famous in the north, or the Diplomats, and it's a Montessori school.
Montessori?
Yeah. I remember having a conversation about that, and I mean, I know the owners very well. And the husband of the administrator, he was saying that at one point the wife said, hey, I cannot, as much as your parents are willing to pay thousands of dollars, I cannot take on a child with it because I do not have the resources. I will be doing your child a disadvantage. I don't have the specialist. I don't have the sensory room. So unless a parent is willing to invest all that, I can maybe house it for you, but I cannot do it. So your child will be in my institution, but not receiving the what they need. So I find in St. Lucia, a lot of the times you hear parents say, oh, they told my child autism, I not send my child Lady Gordon, I'm going to pay to put my child at Tapio because Tapio is a private school. But then Tapio may not have a teacher or the necessary resources to assist that child. So again, because of the stigma,
because then again there is stigma and there is shame.
Right.
Yes. One of the acronyms we didn't unpack was MPH. And I made it up, meaning we're pretty hot. You know, we go for these things because we embarrassed because it's not their fault. Society has made it special education become something that you should be ashamed of. In St. Lucia, I am guilty of it. I didn't know any better. When somebody was growing up, they couldn't talk or they had a developmental disability, we call them moo, dek. It was okay to say, oh, what's going to call them moo? And nobody checked you.
Nobody checked you.
I just want to say that we have to go to a commercial break. But this whole conversation, I want to just clarify. This is not a conversation to say this is the UK versus the US versus St. Lucia, which is best. Because again, different countries, different geographical regions have different resources. We know St. Lucia is a small country. St. Lucia is in this conversation just because we are St. Lucians and because of what we know, if we could better St. Lucia, we not when, because there'll be a time, Diane, get ready, right? We go in and we revolutionizing education.
Yes, we need to.
That's my goal. That's my goal. St. Lucia has to go on the map. That's my goal.
Because even with the teacher training, that I'm not sure whether it's changed now. When we went to teacher training college, there was never any particular training about special needs.
No, we didn't do that.
Yeah, we spoke about the psychology of children, but not in the light of the difference and not
even cultural differences. We didn't even think of. We just think of all of those things those old white German men tell us, which are still true and they still hold, but we didn't even look at it through the lens of cultural relevance. So we're going back courses in just training college, and we revamping our education system. This is a conversation for later. But I just want to say, this is not a UK versus US versus the St. Lucia. This is let us look at UK and US and St. Lucia, and let us see what is being done, what works, what doesn't work, and what can our audience and our participants, our stakeholders, because I hope this conversation goes far, a hearing, and then what can we do to make sure that we stop allowing children who are different, children who have different needs, children who have IEP, students who have labels on them to feel deficient just because of their difference. Okay, so guys, we are going to take our second commercial break, and we'll be right back with you talking about continuing this topic. See you in a little bit.
Love how we party, love how we fet. Pour out the bounty, everything set. Celebrate good friends and more. Let me see, tout moon, farewell. Love how we ride non-stop. We love with spirit and we all have fun. Love that loose and rum.
Perfectly blended. Smooth. The rum of the people. Experience the 6 flavors of bouncy rum. The spirit of St. Lucia.
Yeah, and we're right back after the Spirit of St. Lucia. Where our special guests go? Our short commercial. Okay.
Before Yolanda, before we continue, let me ask you one quick question.
Sure.
Based on what you said, do you think that the limited institutions that we have, like you said, Lady Gordon, I think in view for their special ed, do you think what we have now is sufficient for the number of children that are being diagnosed? Do you think that if all parents, like if the parents in the South decide, you know what, I am not going to go to a private school, and I'm not saying that because I have a private school now, I'm going to take my child to special ed. Special ed now would not be able to handle the numbers that they have.
Of course not. There needs to be a lot more. And what I'm saying too, also, a lot of what I see in the special ed, I see it a lot in the early childhood. They do a lot early childhood and maybe, early elementary. But I don't see there are some students who have slipped through the system already at secondary school. And what happens to them? So we now take them and say, okay, maybe they can go to TVET or something, but they're not. We're not doing enough. I guess we don't have the resources.
We don't have the resources.
We don't have it. So I know the private schools are trying. I know some of the administrators are actually sending their teachers to do the training. Dr. Sharon Gardner, is it Sharon? Dr. Gardner. She's working with. I don't know if I can maybe. I'll talk to you, Vilna. Just
yes.
Yes, especially yes.
Guys,
request for time.
Am I misbehaving?
I want to say something in relation. Oh, sorry.
Am I misbehaving?
No.
Hold, because both you and Joel and Sam, they tell me to behave. So I wanted to make sure I was not misbehaving. Excuse me. maybe at the end of this session, you guys are going to have to write me an IEP, okay?
Yeah, we know that. You're always on the spectrum. We know that.
Dalian, you about to
I think tomorrow you said something about we need more of the special school. I don't think we do. I think we need more inclusive practice, on our island, because that's as an director of inclusion, that's one of my roles, helping schools have those kids sort of within the school setting, because they need to understand what to be able to socialize with their peers. They need to see what different sorts of behavior. If you're going to a special school, they only expose you to a small percent of what you need to experience in life, because going into the real world, you'll need to learn how to interact and socialize with everybody. So schools just have to get better at catering for those students. We need to make sure our teacher training courses prepare our teachers for that. We need to make sure our curriculum is designed in a way that teachers could get that support, and then the monies are put in the right place to buy resources. So it comes from a policy perspective as well. So I mean, it's time that education becomes the forefront of political campaigns in our island. I'm really sorry about that, because it's key.
Right.
It's so important what the importance of educating everybody, because a child who is autistic will still needs to be able to live a fulfilling life as an adult. How are we preparing them for that?
Right.
What if the parent were to pass away?
Right.
What happens to that child?
Mhm.
Where does that child go to?
Correct.
Let's prepare them for life and have a more inclusive schools.
Well, I'm happy
And
that
so,
I think Yolanda, I think it's for the first time I've been hearing this. I think this is the first time as a policy that the government actually has a minister responsible for special education. Yes. So let's see, maybe there'll be changes. Yes.
That's good. That's good. I think I agree with what Diane was saying about making differences normal. I think if we build more special education schools, then we're going to increase the stigma. We need to make sure, Diane, right now we call this LRE, least restrictive environment, where we educate students with their peers. We just educate them differently, and we provide services so they don't feel like, because kids are very smart. They're going to tell you, oh, you're in the special ed, you're in the special ed class. So we're trying to make sure that we standardize everything. However, in the standard classroom does not mean you're getting education that's tailored to the norm. You can get your education tailored exclusively to you based on your needs in that classroom. So I think it's great. So Darian, we are going to plan, me, you, Tamara, Vilna, we are going to plan to sit down, especially in our little country. We're going to bring our expertise and speak to those people. You know, I was ready to volunteer a whole bunch of training experiences. It wasn't even now. It was since 2013 after I graduated from Columbia. And I was like, oh my goodness, I want to give back. And I really wanted to do that for St. Lucia. And I contacted the Ministry of Education and I said, we're ready to volunteer. It was three of us. It was myself, Telka, and Shamin. Because the three of us feel like we're big graduates now and we know things. And we were not asking for money. We wanted to volunteer. We wanted to give back. We wanted to share that expertise. And they did not take us up on the offer. But we're not giving up. We're actually going to go back to St. Lucia. And we're going to make sure that St. Lucian children and parents are privy to the kind of education.
Well, we'll have to link that up with the new
we definitely do. And look at that. Just like that, our hour is up. We never got to Joshua, who was our hypothetical student, and we're going to take Joshua, put him in St. Lucia, look at the same characteristics on the autism spectrum, see who notices, see the teachers who are training him, see the parents' reaction. We're going to put him in St. Lucia, then take him out of St. Lucia, put him in the US, see what happens. Put him in the UK, see what happens. We didn't get to do that. But I think our audience really did get a very quality conversation about where this entire month of August we've been. We actually sacrificed our Wind Down Wednesday. Today was supposed to be Wind Down Wednesday when we got silly drunk. We actually sacrificed that. But I think this conversation is necessary. So we are going to end because we don't have much time. However, we have like a minute. So each of us have about, not me, I've spoken enough, but you have like 20 seconds. If there was one thing you would leave your audience with about autism, what would it be?
Individuals with autism, in my opinion, can be the most talented and able individuals in society, and I admire the way the skills that they use in solving problems, which is different to how we are what we call normal or atypical individuals do. So let's appreciate them all.
Thank you, Delian.
In my limited interaction with them, from what I observed from the school, what I notice is that they are very loving, they are very intelligent, and though they're different, the difference makes them stand out. It doesn't make them less, it makes them more dynamic.
T.
Oh, well, we've gone past an hour, so I just use two words. For me, autism, what I want to see, inclusion, equity. That's it.
Beautiful.
Mhm,
So,
mhm.
guys, we still have some comments from our audience. I
A
wish we could
lot we did
answer,
indeed.
but we can't answer. Our hour is up. We do want to thank Diane. You were awesome. As if I expected anything less. This was the one boy I never put in first. I never beat him fully. Always first. I should hate him, but I don't. So I knew you were going to be awesome. I knew this conversation was going to be informational. I'm so happy that we were able to put some information out there. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We can't thank you enough. Vilna, again, my co-host, as always, I have a new respect for you. I didn't even know that the government was not even helping with what you were trying to do. So you know now, you and I, we have another reason to tag team. And as for you, T, you already know. You're mine. Your mother told you before she died. Anyway, HushTalkers, HushTalkers, thank you so much for giving us an A. We appreciate you. We love you. We want to see you come back. Remember, this is HushTalk, where we speak about the things people are scared to talk about out loud. Have a happy Wednesday, and we'll see you again next week.
Goodbye. Good night.
Bye.